Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, why did I just agree to that? You didn't want it, you didn't need it, and yet you said yes. A purchase you regret, a favor you didn't have time for, a decision that felt off the moment you made it. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never face. You are not as rational as you think, and neither is anyone else. But don't worry, this isn't a weakness, it's human. And once you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop being pushed around by invisible forces, and you start seeing the strings. Now wait till you hear this. Imagine being manipulated without anyone raising their voice. No threats, no pressure, just a simple sentence, a smile, or a limited time offer. That's where our story begins. Dr. Robert Cialdini didn't study persuasion from an ivory tower. He went undercover. He worked in car dealerships, fundraising offices, telemarketing floors. Why? Because he wanted to know one thing. Why do people say yes, even when it's not in their best interest? And what he discovered changes how you see the world forever. See, your brain is lazy. Not in a bad way, in a survival way. Your mind wasn't designed to analyze every decision deeply. If it did, you'd freeze. So instead, it uses shortcuts. Psychological shortcuts. Cialdini calls them click-whir responses. Click. A trigger appears. Whir. A pre-programmed behavior kicks in. No thinking required. Like when you hear because, and your brain instantly relaxes. Or when you see a crowd rushing somewhere and think, they must know something I don't. Ever laughed harder because other people were laughing? Yeah, that's not coincidence. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because once someone understands these shortcuts, they can use them against you. Salespeople, marketers, influencers, even people close to you. But before you feel paranoid, here's the good news. The same knowledge that protects you from manipulation also makes you more persuasive, more confident, and more intentional. This is your hero's journey. Not to control people, but to stop being controlled. Let's start with the first principle, the one that hooks people without them even realizing it. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever received a free gift and suddenly felt awkward saying no afterward? Yeah, that feeling isn't politeness, it's programming. This is reciprocity. The rule says when someone gives us something, we feel an intense need to give something back, even if we didn't ask for it, even if we didn't want it. This isn't cultural, it's biological. Thousands of years ago, this kept tribes alive. You shared food, you shared skills, and people didn't take advantage because repayment was expected. Fast forward to today, and that same instinct is used in places like airports. Here's a wild example. The Hare Krishna organization once struggled to raise donations, so they changed one thing. Instead of asking for money, they handed people a flower. No explanation, no permission, just, "This is for you." And the moment someone accepted it, their brain flipped a switch. I owe them. Donations exploded. Even when people threw the flower away moments later, they still donated. Crazy, right? But here's the part most people miss. The obligation doesn't come from kindness. It comes from the act of receiving. So if someone gives you something in a sales context, a free trial, a bonus, a quick favor, your brain is already halfway to yes. Now here's the empowering part. You don't need to reject the gift. You just need to reframe it.
Tell yourself, this isn't a favor. This is a tactic. And instantly, the spell weakens. On the flip side, if you want to influence ethically, be the first to give. Real value, unexpected help, no immediate ask. Because when value comes first, trust follows. But don't get comfortable yet, because the next principle, it's sneakier. It doesn't use gifts. It uses you against yourself. And once it starts, it's hard to escape. But here's where it gets real.
Ever wonder why quitting bad habits feels harder than starting them? Why once you say yes once, saying no later feels almost impossible? This is where influence stops being external and starts living inside your head. Welcome to commitment and consistency. And fair warning, this one is dangerous. Here's the rule. Once you commit to something, you feel psychological pressure to behave in ways that are consistent with that commitment. Not because someone is watching, but because you are. We like to see ourselves as reliable, principled, the kind of person who sticks to their word. Inconsistency feels like weakness, like identity collapse. So your brain does something sneaky. It rewrites who you are, based on what you've already done. Let me show you how this plays out. Researchers once asked homeowners a simple question. Would you put a tiny sticker in your window that says, "Be a safe driver"? Almost everyone said yes. It was harmless, small, meaningless. Weeks later, the same people got another request. Would you put a large, ugly sign on your lawn that says, "Drive carefully"? Most people said no, except one group. The group that had already agreed to the tiny sticker. 76% of them said yes to the giant sign. Why? Because their identity had shifted. They now saw themselves as the kind of person who supports road safety. The decision wasn't about the sign anymore. It was about self-image. And this happens to you all the time. You sign up for a free trial, then feel compelled to keep paying. You agree to help just this once, then feel guilty pulling back later. You post a goal publicly and feel trapped by it. Ever say yes just to avoid feeling like a hypocrite? Exactly. Now here's the dark side. Manipulators don't ask for big commitments up front. They ask for tiny ones. A click, a comment, a checkbox. Because once you say yes to something small, your brain does the rest. But here's your escape hatch. Pay attention to this feeling, that tightness in your chest, that inner voice saying, "Wait, this feels like a setup." That's not anxiety. That's awareness waking up. And here's the truth they don't want you to hear. You do not owe consistency to commitments you were tricked into making. Growth requires contradiction. Changing your mind isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Now, take a breath. Because the next principle doesn't trap individuals, it traps crowds. And when uncertainty hits, it becomes terrifyingly powerful. This is social proof. Here's how it works. When you're unsure what to do, you look to others. If everyone's doing it, it must be right. That logic saves time. And most of the time, it works. But under pressure, it shuts your brain down. Ever notice how people freeze during emergencies? There's a tragic example that proves this. A woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked in New York. Dozens of people heard or saw it, and almost no one intervened. Not because they didn't care, but because everyone looked at everyone else and saw no reaction. So they assumed it wasn't an emergency. Social proof turned into paralysis. And this still happens today. You buy what has the most reviews, follow what's trending, trust what everyone believes, especially when you're uncertain, especially when people look like you. That's why testimonials work better when they say, "People just like you." Your brain relaxes. Okay, I'm safe. But here's the flip. Crowds aren't wise. They're emotional. Markets crash. Fads explode. Bad ideas spread fast. So when you feel that pull, pause. Ask yourself, am I choosing this because it's right or because it's popular? Sometimes those overlap. Often, they don't. Now here's the ironic twist.
The more you understand these principles, the less power they have over you. You start noticing patterns. Sales pages feel louder, urgency feels fake, compliments feel strategic, and you stop reacting. You start choosing. But we're not done yet, because the next principle doesn't rely on logic, crowds, or obligation. It hijacks something far more primal, your need to be liked. And once that switch flips, reason doesn't stand a chance. But wait till you hear this.
Let's be honest. You've said yes before, not because the offer was good, but because the person asking was. That smile, that friendly tone, that we're basically the same vibe. That's not coincidence. That's liking. And it's one of the most powerful influence weapons ever discovered. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't say yes to ideas. We say yes to people. If we like someone, we trust them more, agree with them more, and forgive them faster. And the wild part? Liking can be manufactured. Dr. Cialdini broke it down into 3 main triggers. First, attractiveness. Attractive people get better deals, lighter punishments, and more trust. It's called the halo effect. Your brain quietly assumes, if they look good, they must be good, even when logic says otherwise. Second, similarity. Same hometown, same music taste, same struggles. The moment someone says, honestly, I'm just like you, your guard drops, because similarity signals safety. And third, compliments, even fake ones, even obvious ones, even ones you know are manipulative. Your brain still lights up, because flattery feels like validation, and validation feels like belonging. Now combine all 3, and you get one of the most effective sales strategies ever created. The Tupperware party. You're not buying plastic containers. You're buying from your friend, in her house, surrounded by mutuals. Saying no feels like rejection, so you buy things you don't need to protect a relationship that didn't require protection. Sound familiar? Now here's the defense. Separate the messenger from the message. Ask one brutal question. If this exact same offer came from someone I didn't like, would I still say yes? If the answer is no, that's your answer. Now let's turn the volume up, because the next principle doesn't rely on charm. It overrides your conscience. It's called authority, and it's terrifying. We are trained from birth to obey. Teachers, doctors, parents, bosses. Authority keeps society functioning. But blind authority? That's where things go wrong. There's a famous experiment that proves this. Participants were told to administer electric shocks to another person. Every time the learner got an answer wrong, they were told to increase the voltage. The learner screamed, begged, pleaded, and still, most participants continued. Why? Because a man in a lab coat calmly said, "Please continue." That was it. No threats, no force, just authority. And people obeyed, even when it violated their values. Let that sink in. Symbols of authority, titles, uniforms, confidence, can shut down independent thinking. That's why scammers wear suits, why fake experts sound polished, why credentials impress us before evidence does. So how do you defend yourself? Ask 2 questions. 1. Is this person actually an expert, or do they just look like one? 2. Is this person incentivized to be honest right now? Because authority mixed with self-interest is persuasion with a mask. Now take a breath.
Because the final principle doesn't push you. It pulls you. With fear, with urgency, with panic. This is scarcity, and it hits fast. Only 2 left. Offer expires tonight. Last chance. Your heart rate spikes. Your logic fades. Because losing something hurts more than gaining something feels good. That's not marketing. That's biology. There was a study with cookies. Same cookies, same recipe. One jar had 10, the other had 2. People rated the cookies from the nearly empty jar as more valuable, more delicious. Why? Because scarcity makes things feel special. And once scarcity shows up, your brain says, decide now. But here's your countermove. When urgency hits, slow down. Scarcity wants speed. Clarity needs space. Ask yourself, do I want this? Or do I just hate the feeling of missing out? Because missing out is not the same as missing something meaningful. Now here's the real secret. Influence isn't evil. It's neutral. It's a force. And once you see it clearly, you stop being controlled by it. You stop reacting. You start choosing. And that's where freedom begins. But we're not done yet, because knowing the rules isn't the same as mastering them. In the final part, I'll show you how all 6 principles connect and how to use them ethically without becoming manipulative, and why the most powerful influence of all is the one nobody talks about.
Here's the twist most people miss. Influence isn't just something done to you. It's something you're broadcasting every single day, whether you're aware of it or not. Your tone, your confidence, your hesitation, your certainty. People aren't just listening to your words, they're reacting to the signals behind them. And the strongest signal of all? Consistency of identity, not commitment, not authority, not scarcity. Identity. When people know who you are and what you stand for, influence becomes effortless. This is the secret nobody talks about. Marcus Aurelius hinted at it. Cialdini proved it. Modern psychology confirms it. We follow people who act in alignment with themselves. Think about it. Why do you trust some people instantly and doubt others even when they say the right thing? Because your brain is constantly asking, is this person congruent? When words and actions match, trust forms. When they don't, alarm bells ring. That's why the most persuasive people don't convince, they embody. They don't push ideas, they live them. Now here's where this flips the script. If you want to be influential, stop trying to sound persuasive. Start becoming internally consistent. Because consistency doesn't just trap others, it anchors you. When you decide, this is who I am, this is how I act, this is what I tolerate, your brain stops negotiating. You stop relying on motivation. You stop folding under pressure. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. That's power, and it's quiet. Now let's bring everything together. The 6 principles aren't separate tricks. They stack. A respected authority who is liked, who offers value first, who shows social proof, who stays consistent and creates ethical urgency. That person doesn't need to convince. People lean in. But here's the line you never cross. Manipulation takes away choice. Ethical influence expands it. Manipulation hides information. Ethical influence reveals it. Manipulation creates pressure. Ethical influence creates clarity. Ask yourself before you try to persuade, am I helping someone make a better decision, or just a faster one? That question alone keeps your integrity intact. Now flip the lens one last time, because the biggest win from this book isn't becoming more persuasive, it's becoming harder to manipulate. Once you understand these principles, you see them everywhere. Limited time offers, influencer endorsements, urgent headlines, authority-driven fear. You stop reacting emotionally, you pause, you think, you choose. And that pause? That's freedom. Cialdini didn't write this book to turn people into manipulators. He wrote it so fewer people would be controlled, so you could walk through the world awake, not cynical, not paranoid, just aware. Because awareness changes everything. Now here's the final truth. You don't need to master all 6 principles. You just need to notice them. The moment you say, "Oh, this is reciprocity. Oh, this is scarcity. Oh, this is social proof," the spell breaks. Your brain comes back online, and you move from autopilot to authority over your own decisions. That's real power. And it compounds, because when you're not being pushed around, you make better choices. You build better relationships. You create work that matters. You stop saying yes out of guilt and start saying yes out of alignment. That's influence turned inward, and that's where everything changes. So here's your takeaway. Influence is everywhere, but control is optional. Learn the rules, recognize the triggers, choose deliberately, and you'll stop being pulled by every voice in the room. If this opened your eyes even a little, don't just scroll, subscribe, because understanding your mind is the first step to taking it back.